Cape Town, South Africa, at a hotel which is hosting our seminar that we have called African Peace Operations. We're looking into the strategic futures of African peace operations, the way forward basically. We have over 60 participants at this event, very lively discussions. I think that out of this will come a number of strategic recommendations that will be useful for both policy advice purposes and publication purposes.
When you came yesterday it was not so warm, so we have spoken to the mayor and they've decided to up the degrees a little bit today.
We're reaching a special milestone in 2015 when the African Standby Forces aimed to reach full operational capability. And so our question was, what comes after that? And so the idea is to look forward into the next decade and lay out some main principles and assess where we are and where we may be going and what would be the major drivers for influencing the future of peace operations in Africa.
I always emphasize that we are Nordic Africa Institute. We try to cover relevant topics on African continent.
We bring researchers, practitioners, policymakers together in order to reflect and provide advice back to, in this case, especially the African Union and the United Nations, about the direction that peace operations are likely to take.
We have those key individuals who are involved in African peace operations actually taking the day-to-day operational decisions when it comes to tricky issues of fueling vehicles, etc.
For us as a Nordic Africa Institute, it is important to be in the middle of the discussions on African security matters. And of course, African Union plays more and more bigger role in securing peace, contributing to peace operations, not only in Africa, but in the global sphere. And we feel that by facilitating and providing funding for this kind of event, we learn a lot, and we also give voice for African own experts to design and contribute to the future of African security.
And I think when you put together, policy people, academics, securocrats, ordinary people with interest in the issues around peace and security on this continent, what do you get in that mix is that different ideas are put onto the table, and then we all sort of come round to talking openly, robustly about these issues, and hopefully getting a better understanding, if not agreement.
Over the years, and especially as the issue of protection of civilians has become more and more important, there's been more pressure on the United Nations and especially the African Union to take more forceful action, to intervene when when people are at risk. And so this has resulted in the greater use of force as becoming more commonplace in peace operations. When you actually have to act against a particular party, you will now use intelligence, you will perhaps use stealth, so the whole dynamics change quite radically. There's of course also greater risk to the host population when combat is taking place. There's a greater risk that if you attack somebody, they're likely to retaliate.
And unless the African Union can provide a relevant response, it loses some of its argument for why we should have African solutions to African problems. So it's very important for the African Union to be seen as having the right response mechanisms that will actually get the job done.
Most of these organizations have become quite lean in terms of having, for the sake of efficiency, having just the right number of people that they need to do their work. And that means that typically those people are very involved in the day-to-day management of the tasks that they have, and they don't have a lot of time to reflect and to think forward and to plan ahead.
It's sometimes very hard for people working in peace operations to know where to find guidance or recommendations or lessons learned or best practices and so on. If you can achieve appropriate policy advice and you can channel it in on the right level, this can really help in the day-to-day running of African Union peace operations.